A Small Town Romance. Book 7, Love in Harmony Vallley series. By Melinda Curtis. Prologue. Your services are no longer required. The chairman of the board for Bostwick Lampoon magazine fixed Chad Healy Bostwick with the kind of stare one gives to spoiled stinky sushi. You're firing me? A week after his father died, Chad hadn't thought he could feel any emptier. He was wrong. His insides felt as hollow as a jack-o'-lantern the day after Halloween. He rubbed a hand over his designer tie, just to make sure no one had carved triangular features in his chest. We're taking the Bostwick Lampoon in a different direction, the chairman said, in a voice gruff with age and years of cigarette smoke, and maybe, just maybe, regret over what he was doing. Barney had been a friend of Chad's father during their student days at Stanford. He'd known Chad since the day he was born. He had to realize what he was doing was wrong. But there was the spoiled and stinky sushi stare. And him giving Chad the axe. A quick glance around the boardroom, at Dar and pitiless faces, and Chad realized how few friends he had left at the magazine. He reached for his coffee, misjudged the movement, and grappled the cardboard cup with both hands to save it from spilling. Silence filled the room, but it couldn't fill the empty spaces inside Chad. This is my company. His voice felt as weak as a fighter's jab in the last few seconds of the 15th round. Never mind that Chad wrote a popular travel column, The Happy Bachelor on the Road, for the magazine and was editor-in-chief and managed the other writers. He owned 49% of the publication his father had started over 50 years ago. You can't take it away from me. But since stockholders controlled 51% of the shares, they could fire him. We're honoring your father's last wishes. Barney handed Chad a sheet of paper. Post-mortem manifesto? Chad perused the document that had been printed on Bostwick Lampoon letterhead, his gaze catching on a paragraph in the middle. My son, Chad Healy Bostwick, has done a brilliant job leading the magazine. But every so often a periodical must reinvent itself to stay relevant. Chad is not my choice for the job. Unable to read any more, Chad crumpled the paper in his fist. This is the thanks I get for taking care of Dad during his 3-year battle with cancer? This is the thanks I get for 13 years of service? The Bostwick Lampoon was a send-up of the news of the day. It was supposed to be a clever vehicle to make people laugh. Chad couldn't work up so much as a chuckle. He used to laugh. Back before he'd had to run the company. He used to smile. Back before he'd had to fire people with kids and mortgages. He used to joke. Back before his father was struck by the big C. The Bostwick Lampoon didn't like what he'd become. They'd made him this way. Doreen, his father's assistant, led Chad out. She and a security guard stood in Chad's office as he packed his personal belongings in a single box and thought about the man he used to be. The magazine didn't seem to care that he took the lead sheet from his team's last story meeting. They didn't seem concerned that he might try to beat them at their own game. At the top of the list was a small town called Harmony Vallley. The unhappy bachelor was hitting the road.